Today we're building a vanilla farm that even Create cannot improve. But let me show you why we're doing this in the first place. Welcome to a new video on the Create Vault, and today we're adding to our ever-growing stone production. First thing that I need to do is get some villagers, since the ones in this town have miraculously disappeared. There's a couple of villages nearby, so I should be able to scoop some up. Just, over there. We'll put them in here and give them some bread so that they can do their thing while we get started on the farm prep. First of all, let me explain the reason for these villagers. The new farm that we are building is going to need some redstone. Well, a lot of it. And I don't just want to rebuild the system that we have in Beardstone, since that one takes up a lot of space and a lot of new materials. The other way to get redstone is by trading with clerics. So that's what we're going to do. We'll use the auto traders to trade gravel into emeralds and emeralds into redstone. This building is going to house the main farm on the ground floor, and we'll put up with the villagers on the first one. So I'm framing out the building first to get an idea of the dimensions that we're working with. We'll use some tables to separate our villagers into, their own cubicles, and I'll probably set up a belt that goes around so that the villagers are on the one side of the building to trade flint for emeralds, and on the other side, clerics will take care of the redstone. But that'll take some time since, I need to wait for the villagers to grow up and so on and trade them. So I'll keep working on this while we get started on the main farm. Some of you that are familiar with the Create mod and its add-ons might already have figured out what we're doing. But for those who don't know, here's the plan. I went and added the Automate Everything add-on to this pack. This allows us to automate the Create building blocks that we haven't been able so far. Outside of scoria, scorcha, and limestone, there's no real recipe for the other blocks in the base Create mod. And I know the veins of ochrum, crimsite, viridian, and azurine are pretty big, but I've been using a lot of these for building blocks, so I want to automate them. I'm going to get started on this thing by spacing out all of the different units, but I don't know if it's going to be interesting or, what it will end up looking like, so I'll just get to it and see how much usable footage that I have. Okay, so I've been pretty busy, not in a good way. I've reworked the system about 3 times because, past me didn't account for some of the recipes and ingredients that we needed. So the footage was pretty much trash. I've been working on the villagers in the meantime, and they are now trading. So let's get some walls in place while we wait for this farm to get up to speed so I can check if everything works out. It's been some time and I have most of the walls in and some of the other stuff already, but most of all, or the most important thing of all, is that the farm seems to be working as I had hoped it would. The azurine and the viridian are a bit on the slow end, but that was expected. So now I can get the roof in place, or at least the shape of the roof in place. While I was working on the roof structure, I saw that the belt system doesn't really work for the auto traders. It gets backed up and the arms mess up. So we'll change it to a more static system that'll use drawer systems instead of belts. Now we get to the reason for this video. I want to use dark prismarine for this roof, so we need to build a guardian farm. I have a monument a couple of thousand of blocks away, so that's taken care of, but we still need to turn it into a farm. Here at the starter base, I can set up a little system that'll automatically make glass, and I would love to dye it cyan. That way it'll blend into the water, and to do that I do need a good source of green dye. I have cactus, but no automatic system for it. Now that I think of it, it might be a good idea to set one up. But this will take a long while to get me the amount of dye that I need. So the tiny cactus farm is here for the long run, and for now we can set up a little rose bush and grind those into red dye. There's also a small chance that the rose bush drops green dye, and that's what we want. So now we wait, and we'll destroy all the red dye, because I don't need it. There's a few types of garden farms, but this is the only one that I can build from memory, and it requires me to drain the bounding box of the monument. We'll use a train and roller mechanics to fill in most of the walls. And that's a lot less glass than I thought it would place, or that I hoped it would place. So yeah, we'll get most of it in with this system, and then I'll do the rest manually. Now that we have a square box, we need to drain it. We can make use of create, and that'll make it a lot simpler by using hose pulleys and a tank or two, you know. But again, it's a lot of sitting around, so I'll skip to the more interesting part. We'll take down the monument layer by layer and clear the inside of its water as well, because the pump can't really get into the little water chambers. Now that we have a cleared space, we can get started on the farm. I don't know where I've seen this design that this one is based on, but I always use this base principle for some reason. We start off with a square tube that'll become the spawning chamber, and then we'll drop the guardians onto some haunted campfires. And that's basically it. This would work as it is, but to push it to its full potential, we want to eliminate all other spawns in this room. So we'll use some of the leftover glass to cover up the floor and make it spawn proof. As part of the decoration, I want to disguise this monstrosity as a bunch of rigs. Not like the oil rigs that we often see in the Create mod, but these old naval forts from the Second World War. They're called Mansell forts, and these days they're pretty run down, which I think would fit right in here. So let's get these built up from the base. Once the base is in place, we can set up an octagonal building surrounded by a walkway. The top of the building is a walking platform that can be used for multiple reasons. And one more thing is that the andesite is a bit too clean, so let's mix in some chipped sand and dirt and make it look all rusty. Now the only thing that we need to do is take a schematic of this and copy it 5 more times. But first, let's cover up this big hole and flood the top of it. This is looking good. There's a few things that got messed up in the placing sequence, like these railings and some other details, but let's get these fixed, and I also need to add in the supports for the legs. On this last one that's a bit outside of the main bunch, we can add one more farm. It's a pretty easy design for a phantom farm. That way we'll have an easy way to get membranes for the phantom tracks that we're going to be using in a bit. I'm using the KelpMC design, and I'll put their video on it in the description below. Alright, the membranes have been acquired, so let me go and craft these into rails, and then we can get started on the prismarine transport. Putting down the rails is pretty annoying, since in certain spots it's pretty high up from the seafloor. The main reason that we're doing this is because I have this boat that a friend of mine designed. You might have seen another video a while back that I made on a large steam liner, and this one is a smaller version of that one. I'm planning to use this ship to transport the prismarine from the Guardian Farm all the way back to Steamcut Hollow. Alright, I have the track in place, and I have everything that I need for the boat itself. And because it's not my design, I'm just going to use the cannon for this one as well. Now we're all set up for a nice trip back. I'll probably do a live stream and take down some of the ice and dirt supports underneath the tracks, but we're back at Steamcut Hollow and we can finish up the building. The boat will do its rounds while we work, and the only thing that we really have to do is give the roof a nice texture. We'll put in some Viridian and then use some dark prismarine as an accent. Then we'll move on to the windows and some other details, but I think that's gonna be it for the building itself. I do have to deal with the villagers, so I'm gonna move them into the town. We'll trap 2 of them to keep them safe, but the rest can roam around for as long as they want. Now we can use the space where the villagers were to turn all of the incoming prismarine into blocks, which is pretty easy. We can press them into a prismarine block or a prismarine brick. And for the dark prismarine, we're already producing black dye, so it's an easy setup. The last thing that I want to finish up is the basements. This isn't really something that is shown on the videos, but these areas are maintenance tunnels. I've already done some cleaning and making sure that these look simple. I mostly use these so I can run around this spaghetti of power lines and pipes to troubleshoot when needed. We can do the same design for the zombie farm basement and the new basement underneath the crate block building. And then it's just a matter of replacing the dirt in front of the new building with our standard floor texture and a pathway. And that's that, I think. We've done a whole lot of grindy stuff in this episode, but I hope you've enjoyed it enough to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!